सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। So let's chant on 4th chapter, verse number 18 through 23. Number 18. Karmanya karmanafya pashyet. Karmanya karmayaf pashyet. Karmanya karmayaf pashyet. Akarmani cha karmayaha. Akarmani cha karmayaha. Sabuddhiman manushyeshu. Sabuddhiman manushyeshu. Sayukta kritsna karma krita. Sayukta krishna karma yasya sarve samarambhaha. Sasya sarve samarambhaha kama sankalpa varjitaha. Kama sankalpa varjitaha jnanagni dagdha karmanam. Jnanagni dagdha karman tam ahu panditam buddhaha. Tamahu panditam buddha tyaktva karma phala sangam. Tyaktva karma phala sangam nityatripto nirashrayah. Nityatripto nirashrayah karmanyabhipravittopi. Karmanyabhipravittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. Naiva kinchit karoti saha nirashiryata chittatma. Nirashirchita chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha. Tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma. Shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilbisham. Kurvannapnoti kilbisham yadrichhalabha santushtaha. Yadrichhalabha santushtaha dvandvatito vimatsaraha. Dvandvatito vimatsaraha samasiddhava siddhaucha. Samasiddhava siddhaucha kritvapi na nibadhyate. Gata sangasya muktasya. Gata sangasya muktasya jnanavasthita chetasaha. Jnanavasthita chetasaha yajñāya charatah karma. Yajñāya charatah samagram praviliyate. Yeah. Okay. So what we, just a quick revision of our last class that we held 2 weeks ago. This section, which is verses number 18 through the 23, is devoted to the basic unfoldment of knowledge of the self, which leads to freedom. So it is devoted directly to the understanding of the knowledge. And in the Bhagavad Gita, this doesn't happen that often, believe it or not, because there's a lot of other topics that Krishna has talked about, which is Karma Yoga, and then later on Bhakti Yoga, then the nature of Ishvara, and all those kinds of things. But here and there is a direct treatment of the knowledge, which is the very basics of the entire Bhagavad Gita. So the Gita is not is devoted to Jnanam alone. The other things are just sahakari, they are just aids to it. But the main thing is the understanding which is preventing us from freedom. And that is called Jnanam, knowledge. And so it happens very rarely. So for example, in the verse number 12 through 24 of the second chapter, 12 through 24, was the treatment of knowledge. So there, for example, verse number 17, Avinashitu tadviddhi yena sarvamidam tatam vinasham avyasya asya na kaschit kartum arhati. So there it was saying that, please, what are you talking about? The self is not subject to destruction. And so like that and so on. This is now repeated in this section. And Swami Paramarthananda was very articulate in pointing out that this is an important section for us to really see. The importance of the Jnanam is characterized by the very strange language. So whenever you have a strange language, which appears to be hard to understand, that means that one should pause, because you cannot look upon the Gita as written by a strange person. Doesn't make any sense. You cannot do that, because it is done by Ishvara himself. And so if there is a strange language there, you don't blame the author and say he doesn't know what he's talking about. It means that I have to understand what the strange language is all about. And so here, this happens at various places in the Shastra. Karmani akarma yaf pashyet. That one who sees in action, there is no action. Akarmani cha karma yaf pashyet. And one who sees in non-action in something which is happening, sa buddhiman manushyeshu. He is the saha here is a male word, but it means any person. Buddhiman manushyeshu sa yuktaha kritsna karmakrit. He says he is the person, he or she is the person who really understands what is going on. Because normally, this is what is strange about it, because if you feel that you see something as normally seen by people, supposing I say this is You know what? This is not a table. This is a car. And you'll say there's something wrong with this guy. Everybody else thinks he's sitting, his hands are on the table, and he thinks it's a car. So if you don't see things as others see it, you are looked upon as a strange person. But in this one case, that is exactly the opposite of what it is. When you see something which others don't see, that means there is something that is worth looking into. And so, as you know, this is the basis of the jnanam, of the knowledge, where it is pointed out. It's very interesting. It's a good thing to look at it. So when we look at ignorance, self-ignorance, ajnanam, non-understanding, all of those, we were looking at it in the earlier class also. It is not just the absence of knowledge. In fact, it is called aviveka. Aviveka means one which is non-discriminative. There's something wrong. There two things are mixed up together. Two things are mixed up together, and you do not see them as two fundamentally different things. And the example Swami Paramarthananda had given was that of an electrical appliance, a functioning electrical appliance. So in the functioning electrical appliance, there's no problem, because both the unchanging electricity, which is the power of something is in the electricity. And it's an unchanged, let's say electricity also is not a perfect example, but it's a pretty good example, where the power is the same. It's 220 volts. Has some amperage to it, and it's the power. And the instrument itself does not have the power, but it has the ability to reflect the power. It has been well made, so it requires a lot of work. But if you look at our light, then the filament, when the power goes through it, it glows and creates light. But the filament itself is not the power. It has the ability to reflect the power. And in the case of a functioning electrical appliance, in non-discrimination between electricity and the appliance doesn't cause much problem. Doesn't cause much problem. Only when it happens that if for some reason the appliance is not working, you have to investigate it. What is the issue? That's happened to me last night. I have a desktop that I work with, and it has a HP monitor that I bought, I don't know, about a long time ago, 15 years ago or something. Very nice monitor. And I was working on something, and I was answering my phone, and all of a sudden I saying the monitor is not off. So I said, oh, the power must be off. So I pushed the button. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Now I'm in deep trouble, because I have to do a lot of work last night, and I just finished reviewing the preparation for this class. So all that was done. And about 5:30 or so, I discovered my monitor is not working. So what to do? So I had to quickly go to Costco, drove across, and bought a monitor, LG monitor, 24-inch, $129. And I was still not sure that maybe it is something, the wiring is not there or something, but I came back and it worked. It is connected. Now it is working. So in the case of a functioning appliance, because I had to make a decision, is it the monitor or is it maybe the wire that connects to it? And it turns out that I'm using the old wires. The HDMI wire is the same one. And so the wire was not effective, the appliance itself went back. So there, the non-discrimination, whether the appliance is working or the power is off, causes some minor inconvenience. In the case of ourselves, it is a huge issue. I am a functioning appliance. A functioning appliance. I am a human being with a life, with a history, dependencies, food, help, aging, all kinds of things. I am a functioning appliance. And the inability to distinguish between the two elements of myself is a huge issue, fatal issue. Such a huge issue that it's unbelievable that despite the fact that I am not touched by any problems, I am very touched with problems. Despite the fact that I cannot be touched even by death, I am touched by death. And so, as Krishna pointed out in the second chapter, avinashi tu tadviddhi. Yena as. He says, what are you talking about? Do this viveka, Arjuna. You are a functioning appliance, but look at the two basic elements, constituents of yourself. You are the power that is functioning in this body. It's like the electricity which is unchanging. And the inability, because I am mixing up two things. One is I am mixing up, one thing I'm mixing up is the Chetana Vastu. It is the very life. And the other thing that I'm looking at is the Jada Vastu, which is inert. And so, yes, the filament is reflecting the power and it has some ability to do things, but it doesn't mean that the filament is the power. In fact, the power is separate from it, completely separate from it. So similarly here also. So we saw that really I am a combination of the self and the non-self. And the self is fundamentally different from the non-self. Fundamentally different. How is it fundamentally different? Because it is unchanging, never born, having no parts whatsoever. It is like space, or it's like light, which is simply reflecting the various things. If there is a light inside the room and the room is either full or it is empty, people, this, that, or the other, and the light remains the same. And the lighted objects in the room are changing, but the light remains the same. Similarly, here also, I am the very consciousness. And so we talked about in the second chapter, there were so many differences between the self and the non-self. One was that it is independent. The other one is dependent. The one is that it is never born, the other one is born. The one which is full of parts and not parts. So we saw all of that. There were a lot of things that we saw, the basic difference between them. Here in the chapter 4th, a new aspect of the difference between the self and the non-self is being talked about, which is movement and action. This was not done before, so this is something new. Same discrimination between the self and the non-self, but something new, which is, Krishna is pointing out, see the difference between movement and non-movement. And therefore it says that you are wise if you see that where it appears to move, there is actually no movement. And where it does not appear to move, there is movement. There is some erroneous conclusion that you are drawing. And if you can see the reality of how these two components work together, like electricity and the appliance, to function as something which is moving, then you are done. That is the person who is the wise one. He says, Sabuddhiman manushyeshu. Otherwise, everybody else feels that what's the big deal? So I'm dying and I'm born on such day and so on and so forth. There's nothing else you can do. He says, no. Sayuktaha kritsna karma krit. You are not done yet. So here, what do you mean by that? So here it says that, listen, first of all, what you consider to be not moving is actually continuously moving. Like, for example, take this table. It appears that the table is stationary and not moving. That is not true. And in fact, we saw this in this example earlier also, that, for example, supposing you're sitting there and your body and you're doing meditation and you're not moving at all. This is not true. You say, what do you mean by not true? I'm not moving. I'm not moving. I'm just still. And I'm holding my breath also. I'm just not true. Why not? You are hurtling on the space at such a speed, you cannot believe it. I cannot even describe to you how quickly you're moving through space. For example, the whole earth is moving. Then the whole earth is moving around the sun, and the sun is moving around other galaxies. Other galaxies are moving. We cannot even, it is unbelievable. We have no idea how fast you're moving, but you're moving. It's like two people sitting in the train looking at each other and talking to each other. Both of them are moving very fast. Just because they're not moving with respect to each other, they feel we are not moving. So the table here also, if you are a scientist, you will see there is so much going on. In fact, if you had an instrument which is powerful enough to just look at the table, you will see electrons and protons and molecules, atoms moving, hurtling. And you will be amazed. Just like, I sometimes think, so Ishvara has been very kind to us, because if you knew how many bugs are crawling on your skin at this moment, you'll never put your finger in your mouth. It has got some scary looking things on it. And sometimes they actually create a disease, sometimes they just lie low. This is what they say. They say that really each human body already has all these cancer cells in it already functioning. And sometimes because of some imbalance, they become active. Otherwise, they are there. You talk about stomach cancer and brain cancer, they're all there. All moving there. So to feel that I'm not, I'm just sitting there doing meditation. So a wise person knows. And in fact, it's interesting, Swami Dayananda used to say that. He says, if you look at the creation, the whole creation is made in terms of a circular movement. The basis of the whole creation is circular movement. It's how Ishvara has created. Everything is circular. And we were talking about this, I think, earlier also, that our life is also circular. Because you take a birth, and you become older, and then you give up the body, and you pick a new one. It just goes on like this. And we think it's flat. It's beginning here and ending there. But in fact, it is circular. We're just going through this. The entire creation, even the table, is made out of circularity. Because this is, just imagine that what a great creation it is, that you make it self-dependent. Circular means that it comes back to the same point over and over again. But it's an appearance that it doesn't move. So this is what he's saying, that one who understands that there is movement when there is an appearance of no movement, knows what's going on. Now let's look at it the other way around. What we find is that I am continuously changing. This is what our conclusion is. This is why you find, oh my God, there's a new wrinkle. So you apply for Botox. And you find that the hair is changing. And you find that I'm changing. Oh my gosh, I used to be young. This is what happens. You sometimes look at an old picture and you say, what? Is that what I used to look like? I cannot believe this. And my granddaughters, they all remind us, Papa, you had hair at one time? What happened to you? They thought I was born bald, So, and so your feeling is that I'm continuously changing. I'm continuously changing. And then as you go a little closer to old age, then you start thinking about, hey, where am I going to be? What will happen to me? Changing. In fact, the self does not change. So where there is an appearance of change, in some cases, in the most important case, which is myself, there is no change. Consciousness, the basic consciousness, the very awareness does not change. And so it's a beautiful thing to see that enveloping the whole creation is knowledge. Is knowledge. And what do you mean by knowledge? The intrinsic nature of knowledge means I know. Unchanging. Even ignorance is not possible unless you know it is ignorance. This is the highest point, and the highest point because it is the very nature. It is not borrowed that I know. Just look at this. This is the very stuff of Brahman, Ishvara. You are not borrowing consciousness. You are consciousness. You are the very nature of I know. You cannot function without a constant I know. What you know may change. That your body is getting old, you know. So just see this. Even the fact that you know you're getting old is only possible if you know that you are, I know, is unchanging. It's unchanging because it's your very nature, and it's very near nature because it is not made up of parts. You're not dependent on anything. You are the very nature of I know. I know. And there's no action. Action meaning some change. Isn't it? Any action means some change. You give up one state and you acquire another state is action. Change. And in the self, the I know, there is no change. Even if you want to change it, you cannot. And you don't want to change it. It's just that, yes, I know becomes clear, but that I am the very basis of ananda, joy, that part is not clear. And it will become clearer. But you can easily see that I know is my nature. Unchanging. Where is the change in it? So that's what's meaning of this very important reiteration of knowledge. Karmani akarmayah pashyet. So in karmani means that in myself which is changing, one who sees that there is no change. And akarmani karmayaha. Akarmani means one which appears to be non-changing. One who says that in the entire creation there is nothing but change. Sabuddhiman manusyeshu sayuktaha kritsna karmakrit. So this is an invitation for introspection, to look into, to do the viveka. Do the viveka. So the ignorance here is in the form of discriminative inquiry. Just like in an electrical appliance, when the child is to be shown that, listen, there are two parts to it. There is a power which does not change, and an appliance which has no power but has the ability to move. So the electricity itself does not move, but the fan moves. Even when the functioning fan has the ability to make the electricity move, but there is no movement in the electricity. And so if you were to look at the two fundamental parts that are diametrically opposite to each other and how they got mixed up. Swami Chinmayananda used to say that. He says, we are the children of an unauthorized marriage between the self and the non-self. It's like, there are two people who are not supposed to be married to each other, but they get married. So then there is, like for example, you have a child born out of wedlock, and then there is always some kind of a feeling that this person he's an illegitimate mother. So this is the situation. We are the children of an illegitimate because the self and the non-self they cannot get mixed up together, but they do. What can we do? And we are the result of that. The result meaning that the human being is in fact the offspring. Yeah, this is exactly right. That we are the offspring of this confusion between the self and the non-self. And once who is able to see that those two cannot be mixed up, it's like the room space can never divide space, but it does. Sabuddhiman manusyeshu sayuktaha kritsna karmakrit. Then in the next 4 or 5 verses, so this is the main verse that points out the nature of viveka, nature of discriminative inquiry. And then in the next 4 or 5 verses, it is simply a commentary on the verse number 18. Implications. Commentary means the implication of understanding verse number 18. So I'll go through rather quickly. We have already done this, so this is a revision. So, yasya sarve samarambhaha kama sankalpa varjitaha jnana agni dagdha karmanam tam ahu panditam buddhaha. So here it means that in order to clarify and to solidify my understanding, I need to be less concerned with trivial things in my life. And the trivial things in life manifest themselves on individual desires. And this is not directly the result of the words on this verse, but basically what it means is, elsewhere it is talked about, that what I need to do in my life in order to really appreciate the self as being fundamentally different from the non-self. Because the question is that I don't quite get it. I know what you're saying and it makes sense to me, but how is it that I'm not able to see this? The reason for that is that my sense of alternate reality is so strong. It's like my mind has been hijacked with things. So for instance, one of the things that we will study in more detail is, by involving myself in my work and so on is not a problem. Not a problem. It is only a problem if I find that the work that I'm doing alone will set me free. Then it won't. It won't. And so another aspect of that is that I find that I am busy with my life. I don't have time to study Vedanta. That just as another example. So here the acharyas say this is the wrong way to look at it. Why is it the wrong way to look at it? Because you find, you know what, you are acting in life, you've got children to take care of, grandchildren to take care of, a spouse or someone who's not well, your own health. You're very busy with all of that. And you find, you know what, I don't have time, I don't have the opportunity to study Vedanta. And when I'm studying Vedanta, it's not as you get everything right away, but at least you are absorbed in understanding what the truth is, and you like it. You find that I'm doing something very significant in my life. I'm not just wasting my time on trivial things, which I know are trivial, but I'm doing something very profound. So you feel very good about it. But where is the opportunity? Because I'm busy with lots of things, responsibilities, jobs, this, that, or the other, mortgages. Oh my God, I tell you, talking about mortgages is just an interruption. So I ran into something on the back of my car, and I am getting my car fixed. So I took a rental car yesterday from Hertz. And so this guy who was driving me in the rental car, so I struck up a conversation with him. How are you doing? How long have you been Hertz? So one thing led to the other, and he was telling me, amazing. So look at this. This guy, he's 56 years old. He and his wife got divorced. They got a couple of kids. And he used to work in Southern California and had a fairly decent job, some kind of a job. He's still he's not an engineer or anything like that. But his wife and the kids live here. And so he decided that he misses his kids very much, so he came all the way over here. He says, sir, Hertz pays me $13.50 an hour. Okay? Apartment, one-bedroom apartment in Santa Clara is $2,500. He says, sir, what am I going to do? I cannot afford. Cannot do that. But you know what he does? Somebody gave him an old car, and a nice car, and functioning and so on, it gives him 13 miles per gallon. And he has to commute from San Jose to Santa Clara, or Palo Alto, rather, Palo Alto. He says, each trip costs me 3 gallons. He says, I spend minimum of $20 a week driving. He says, I don't know what to do. So you know what he does? He lives in his car. And he's got a $40 membership at one of the gyms. And he takes a shower there. He goes and shaves. Huh?
24-hour fitness.
24-hour fitness. He says, that is wonderful. It's 24 hours. I can go and take a shower. And I mean, what a life this poor guy has. I gave him some decent tip, and he was very grateful to me. He said, sir, you don't have to do that. I said, you know what? I can afford this. I'll be happy to give you this. And I just visualize, this is his life. Now, this is how he can't even, he's so involved in the day-to-day just survival that there's no way to really do any kind, even if I have to say, you know, come to my class, I'll show you your self and non-self and so on and so forth. And supposing he is he's so problematic in his life that he decided, oh, this is wonderful, please teach me all this. How is he going to do that? So in fact, this is an important thing to see. I'm driving at something. I just want to give you a sort of like a summary of that. So our acharyas say that it is the wrong way to look at it for a student to say that I don't have time to look into Vedanta because I'm so busy with my life. That's how the whole story started. I am so involved with it and I've got problems and so on and so forth. I don't have time to study. This is the wrong way to look at it. Then what is the right way to look at it? In fact, as you are acting, you should be inquiring. The only difference between what you used to do before and what you should be doing is as you are involved in action in your life, your focus should be on yourself as the person who is acting, the nature of the person. So for instance, supposing you are looking at an object. So this is exactly what happens. We are so busy looking at objects. Our whole vision, our whole focus, our attention is on things. This is what it is. At every opportunity, instead of looking at things, and if you have to do some things like driving and so on, do that. It's not as though you should be closing your eyes or anything like this. But as you are driving and you are, forget the driving is a little different thing. So let's just look at it. You're just doing some work. And as you're doing the work, your drishti, your focus should be the consciousness which is making things clear to you. So you're not looking at a thing, you're looking at your awareness as it powers the various actions. So in fact, your activity has nothing to do, whether or not you're active has should nothing to do with it. You are aware of your awareness all the time. There's no opportunity to say, when am I going to study? In fact, aren't you alive? Yes, that's it, that's enough. The only time when you cannot study Vedanta is either in deep sleep or when you're dreaming. You cannot, and in fact, our acharyas say it's very interesting that if you really become so involved in the learning of Vedanta, that even your dreams will be involving Vedanta. There will be something. I'm not at that point yet, but even in my dreams, sometimes, last night also, for example, sometimes you dream of your parents, and they're no longer there. Last night I had a very long dream with Swami Dayanandji. He was visiting, and then I was taking care of him, and then all kinds of things. So even your dreams are affected, but you won't really have any chance to inquire. But during waking hours, there is no excuse. Whatever you are doing, you should be. And in fact, this is given in one of the chapters. I forget what way. Shrinvan. When you're hearing, when you're talking, every time your drishti should be towards the power which is powering the instrument. This is the way to sharpen your inquiry. And the more you do that, the less you will be concerned about the effects of your action. So this is what is being said in verse number 19. So he says, Yasya sarve samarambhaha kama sankalpa varjitaha jnana agni dagdha karmanam tam ahuhu panditam buddhaha. He says, for those who are conscious of their possible independence, it hasn't come up to a complete independence, it will take a while, but go in the direction of finding independence while you are acting. And if you do that, you are on your road to freedom. Don't be that concerned. What's going to happen now? When am I going to get the results of it? So same thing on verse number 20. Tyaktva karma phalasangam nitya tripto nirashrayah karmani abhipravittopi na eva kinchit karosi saha. He says, so here another very interesting thing to see, not only interesting, very important thing to see, that what we need to do in our life in order to make progress is to be aware of the fact that there are some actions that I need to do because I'm in a given situation. This is called prarabdha karma, nitya naimittika karma. And some actions that I'm initiating because I feel small, I feel inadequate, I feel limited, and I need to do something. So those are not prarabdha karmas. Those are not something that you need to do it. There's some things that you need to do. So this is where a life of duty becomes very important. And we should have the discriminative ability to distinguish between life of duties and life of your own kamya karma. Wouldn't it be nice if we did this? And number one, you make a distinction between those two, then they'll fulfill your life of duty well. That is important. And do not, if possible, get involved with kamya karma. And so there, the less desire-fulfilled karmas you have, the better off you. And you cannot do that until you appreciate that you are okay as you are. See, the problem in our life is that our conclusion is that I'm not okay as I am. I really need some help. I need to have more friends. I don't have enough friends. I need to go on vacation because my life is very tense. I've got to, it's very stressful. So I got to go to Hawaii to get rid of my stress. Then I don't have enough money. Don't have enough money, I need to get some more money to get a better job. So like that, I have so many conclusions about myself. And to a point that you start affecting your prarabdha karma duties. What you should be doing, you're not putting enough attention on, but you've got your own ideas on how you should do in your life. So that's the first step, is to be able to distinguish between prarabdha karma and kamya karma. So whenever you have some things that are proposed in your mind, in order to become buddhiman, in order to become wise, you ought to be able to distinguish between things that, am I supposed to do this? Yes, then I better do it. If I'm not supposed to, nobody is asking me to do it, am I doing it on my own? I need to think about that. And so this is what it is said. See, the very beautiful thing on 19 also. Yasya sarve samarambha, whose work is begun with a lot of thought. Yes, this is something that I need to do. Kama sankalpa varjita, not something that I want to do this is an important thing, and so on and so forth. Whatever needs to be done, you just do it. Then jnana agni adagdha karmanam. Why do I feel good about it? Because the amount of energy that I'm spending in useless things, I redirect it to an understanding of the mahima of the self. Then tam ahuhu panditam buddha. That is a real person, that is a wise person. Same thing. Tyaktva karma phalas asangam nitya tripta nirashrayah karmani abhipravittopi naiva kinchit karosi yaha. So here, Swami Paramarthananda had made a very beautiful point. He said, you know what? He says that we confuse non-activity with peace of mind. We find that we associate activity with the fact that I'm not peaceful. This is an issue I have to address. Activity or no activity has nothing to do with it. Like, for example, if you're cooking, and especially if you don't need to cook, but you just decided this is something, supposing you are a good cook, and you decided today I'm going to make something nice for the whole family. And you do cooking. And you don't see this act of cooking as something which you have to do. It's something out of your own desire. As I've not made this dish for a long time, and it'll be nice to do this today. And while you're doing it, you are singing. There's a song in your head. It doesn't appear to be any kind of a limitation. that I have to do this, that, or the other. You are just cooking, you're doing a number of things, you're cutting things, you're heating up the oil, whatever you have to do. So the activity is not it is the attitude. This is what is being said. Krishna is saying this. You don't think about that, I've got to do this now, this, so on and so forth. I mean, if you have to do it, you have to do it. That's okay. But really, do not confuse activity with the peace of mind. Because you can have a peace of mind while you are active. A person who's cooking for the whole family, for the friends, or whatever it is a happy person. And nothing to do with it. It's not a constraint. This is an important thing to see, that you don't, and so what happens is that you try to become less active, thinking that will give you happiness. People cannot wait to get to retire. That once I'm very busy right now, but I really want to retire. You have no idea the problems retirement brings you, and how many new things that come up. Since I've been retired, I've been busier than ever, and happier, because I've already was very happy that I was, learning and teaching Vedanta and so on and so forth. And now, honestly, I'm just completely, and I'm happy, whatever I'm doing. It's not a constraint to me or anything like that. And also, it's not as though I feel like I'm stressed and I need to go on a vacation. And at the same time, if the family needs some vacation time, I need to be cognizant of that. And so, this is really the truth. In June, my granddaughter is singing at the Carnegie Hall, and so they are part of a big chant, this choir. So she's done very well in the choir, and so her maternal grandparents and the paternal grandparents and the whole family, we thought we will go to New York and hear her at the Carnegie Hall. This is about almost the same time that Swami Viditatmananda is coming, a little bit later on. And so they all said, we'll be together for 5 days. I don't need to do that, but I feel that this is something which is important because the whole family will be together. Fine, I'm happy with that. Perfectly okay. And I'll also spend a day at the ashram and go there, and I'll go to the ashram even before that. But so anyway, my sense of taking vacations is not because, I am so stressed and I just want to go somewhere and just rest for a while. That thing is gone. To me, if there is a vacation in the family, I'll go. If there's nothing there, I'm busy teaching, and I'm okay with that. So, in the sense of learning this, the activity of my life is no longer a burden for me. It's the way it is. I'm with my own attitude, and while I'm acting, I'm still very cognizant about what's going on, who am I, and my inquiry begins, continues on. So this is what Krishna is saying, that we need to do these kinds of things. Tyaktva karma phala sangam nitya tripto nirashrayah karmani abhipravittopi naiva kinchit karosi saha. He says that giving up the deep attachment to the results of the action, always contented, being not dependent on anything, he does not do anything even though engaged in action. True, I can see this. Really, it's the reality to me. So it's interesting, in the follow-up of the verse number 18, So just look at the structure of how this is done. So 18 was the introduction to self-knowledge. Introduction means reintroduction, not the first time, but reintroduction. Karmani akarmana yah pashyet. So this is the very fundamental aspect of it. The implication of that, the preparation for it, the enjoyment of it is given in two forms. One is to a grihastha, to an active person. The other one is to a sannyasi. Whole Bhagavad Gita is really done for both of them, grihastha and sannyasi. And both of them are capable of reaching the same point. Sannyasa means one who has just given up the ability to. So sannyasa means very interesting. You find these people who have taken on a new identity. They are I suppose that can happen even after they're married. Generally doesn't happen after they're married, but can happen. In the case when they're married and so on and so forth, they are no longer the part of the family. They are an independent person. And they don't have responsibilities for it, and they don't have any obligations, but their obligation is to the pursuit of truth. So this is what I call sannyasi. Now, in the arrangement of these verses, please make a note of it, 19, 20, 22, and 23 are meant for the grihastha. Number 21 is meant for the sannyasi. So the truth remains the same for both, but your station in life will dictate which of the two you will focus on. So when you talk about sannyasi, that means that it should have been officially done, where you renounce your previous, you are given a diksha, a new name, you renounce your previous responsibilities, and you stop competition, and you stop demanding. The food is given to you, whatever is given. So it has a completely different set of, not possible in anywhere other than in India. Not outside is possible, but not really, not the normal. But there, if you're a sannyasi, you have a new identity. So it's a second birth of the person. Or it's not necessary for you to do that. You can stay as a grihastha, but you pursue the clarity of this viveka while you are acting. So those grihastha are given in 19, yasya sarve samarambhaha, then number 20, tyaktva karma phalasangam, triptin, etc. Then, for some reason, I'm not sure why Krishna decided to do it this way, there is a crossover to the sannyasi. So number 21, which I think we will do next time, we will leave some time for questions today. The nirashihi yat chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan apnoti kilbisham is meant for the sannyasi. But he still has not finished for the grihasthas. So in number 22 and 23, he will come back and wrap up the lifestyle for a grihastha. With that, this section dealing with jnanam particularly will be over. And then we will go into number 24, which is Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavihi, Brahmanahutam. That we will do that later on. So this is the arrangement that you should be aware of. There's a lot of nuances in the way this Gita is structured, and it'll be good for us to know. It's not like all verses are the same. The importance, the relevance, the structure is all different from verse to verse. So with that, I will close off today's class and leave some time for questions, and we'll continue next week. Om asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityor ma amritam gamaya. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm trying to come to grips with consciousness. So, trying to understand, and for me it's been very difficult to grasp it. And my experience so far is anything I don't grasp, I can't use.
Anything you don't grasp, you what?
Anything I do not grasp, this is the stream life. It's not useful to me because I cannot use it.
Yeah, not use it. Okay. I didn't catch what you said. Okay.
So I'm trying to understand what consciousness is.
Okay.
So, according to you, sound sleep, deep sleep, is when Atma gets disconnected with Anatma, right? So,
well, go on. Finish your.
As I understand, it's like miniature that every day we go through this deep sleep. So whenever Atma gets disconnected with Anatma, then we should be in consciousness itself. But I see that when I have deep sleep and I wake up, I had no consciousness. I not anything that happens. So can you shed further light on it?
Yeah. So I think I was requested by someone who's not aware, not in the class, to please repeat the question because they had asked me. So the question this gentleman has asked is that he's still not clear about consciousness, especially the relevance between the deep sleep and the waking and so on. So he asked some questions about revealing consciousness. So see, consciousness, one thing one should understand, in fact, the word consciousness itself is misleading. Because consciousness as a word means as though it's a property. That I am someone who is endowed with consciousness. This is the way we start with. I am conscious. That means, so if you look at the analysis of this sentence, that I am conscious, it has two parts of it. I am, and furthermore, I am endowed with consciousness. This is the way our conclusion is. Maybe, it may not be, but it may be that's the conclusion, which is not true. This is not the way it is. So, my nature is consciousness. It's not as though I am endowed with consciousness. So in fact, this is exactly what happens. When you say that I am conscious, in the example that we saw earlier about an electrical appliance, it's a good way to look at it. This is interesting that you bring up this question. So when you say, I am conscious, it is like saying, an electrical appliance says, I am endowed with power, electricity, right? Exactly the same. So in this conclusion, this way of looking at it, see what's happening. Your identity is with the appliance, and you are treating the electricity as your property. Instead, the fact of the matter is that your identity should be the power, and the personality of the appliance is something you may be endowed with. So, for example, you say, another thing, I'll come back to it in a minute, but another way of looking at it is when you say, I am a golden chain. In the statement that I am a golden chain, your identity is with the chain, and the gold is a property that you're enjoying, you're endowed with. The fact of the matter is, this is a wrong way of looking at it. You are not a golden chain, you are chainy gold. Why should we say one is wrong and the other one is correct? Because the person who is to be endowed with consciousness and so on should be constant, and the other thing should come and go. That's the way it should be. In other words, for example, a noun and an adjective. An adjective should come and go, but the noun should stay. Like you can say that I am a happy person. So the happiness should be something, or you could say I'm unhappiness, but you are a person, and the happiness and the unhappiness comes and goes, so that becomes a property. So similarly, when you say that I am a golden chain, that means the chain should have an independent existence, and whether it is gold or it is made of iron is different. That's not the case. In fact, it should be chainy gold. That's correct. Why? Because the gold is stable. It does not come and go. The chaininess comes and goes. That's the right way to look at it. So similarly, coming back to it, when you are an appliance and you feel that I am endowed with power, with electricity, it's the wrong way to look at it. Why? Because, excuse me, the electricity and the power is the constant one. And the appliances can be anything. It can be either a fan, or it could be a bulb, electric bulb, it could be a heater, or air conditioner, whatever. But the power remains the same. And so it is exactly like chainy gold and golden chain. So similarly, here also, when you say, I am conscious, our conclusion is that I am. So who am I? Well, it's very, very obvious. I'm the body, I'm fingers, I'm cheeks, and so this is who I am. And by the way, I'm also conscious. It's the wrong way to look at things. Because the body is changing, and not not reliable, but the consciousness remains the same. So it's exactly like saying golden chain versus chainy gold. So the consciousness is you. It is not your property. Your body is your property. Your mind is your property. Memories are your property. But you are the very consciousness. You're not any different from it. It's not as though, this is exactly when you're saying that when you say, I don't understand consciousness, that means I don't understand myself. It's true. You're absolutely correct. But to resolve it, you have to see that your consciousness is not a property, that's you. That is the noun. And the only thing is that I am so used to looking at things having forms that I reject consciousness because I don't see it as a formful thing. Exactly. Anything which is formful is temporary. So the space has no form, that is the permanent one. But the room space has a form, so it is not permanent, it's temporary. It is an imposition. And so deep sleep also, you are conscious at that point, but not conscious of anything in particular. So that's a separate thing. We can go into that in more detail. But at this point in time, the way to address one's own confusion, that I don't understand consciousness and so on and so forth, is to look at the fact that consciousness is you. And it's you in the form of I know. I know. Everything so this is called paramaha. Paramaha means that everything else goes, I know does not go. Does it ever go? No. Try to eliminate I know-ness. You cannot eliminate it because it's you. And you not as an individual, but as the totality, as Brahman. Anyway, think about it. We'll continue on. Shilpa?
With the consciousness, so, I've done a little bit reading and such, Ramana Maharshi or other, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, other, other people, it says they were connected with their consciousness and they were able to, perceive, look into whatever that higher self is. So what exactly were they, you say we are consciousness, so what were they doing?
So I think what they were saying was, as we were discussing earlier, that the only difference between Paramahamsa and Ramana Maharshi and so on, and an normal person, is that in their case they had a viveka, they had a clear discrimination between electricity and the appliance. They were aware of the fact that consciousness is unlimited. It is independent of time, independent of death, which is true. And so that is what they were saying, that is the same consciousness, but I was aware of its glory. And a normal person gets mixed up between consciousness and the appliance and does not see the unlimitedness of the consciousness. So what these Mahapurushas were ones who had already figured out that those two are fundamentally different. And we can also do the same. We have to study, we have to be clear about it, be thinking about it, apply it in our life, do vairagya, viveka vairagya, shatka sampatti, all of those kinds of things, sadhana. And once we do, we have the ability to also become Ramana Maharshi and so on. So the consciousness remaining the same, it's the way I look at it that makes us different from these Mahatmas. That's all.
What is sadhana means? What does that
Sadhana means that, I think you've asked that question also, but sadhana means that, so the nature of knowledge, Shilpa, is that knowledge remains the same, the ability to know is different. So anything which is very subtle, you have to prepare your mind to be able to understand that. So for instance, that will be very true if you were talking about quantum mechanics. There, a 8-year-old, 10-year-old person who hasn't studied basic mathematics is unable to understand the quantum mechanics. So it's not as though the quantum mechanics is not there, but the ability of the person in preparing the mind is not there. This is called sadhana. So sadhana is nothing but understanding the very basics of what consciousness is, what self is, what is non-self, how are the two related, all these kinds of things that we are doing. This is sadhana. And also it involves a certain relative independence from life, where you are not involved with likes and dislikes and so on and so forth. You are somewhat independent from it to pursue this inquiry. This is all part of sadhana. And in our literature, we have lots of ability of the sadhana. Even in Bhagavadgita, for example, in the 13th chapter, in amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, kshantirarjavam, and then there is sadhana panchakam. A lot of the books are available. So sadhana, to answer your question, is the ability to me to prepare my mind to understand this truth. That's all. Okay. Yes, sir.
Consciousness, same as Atma then?
Yes, consciousness and Atma are the same. Atma means me. I am consciousness. My Swarupa is consciousness.
And that Atma owns my body?
Sorry?
And that Atma temporarily owns this particular physical body?
Not owns in the sense that the identity is mixed up. So it's exactly like it becomes like a room space or a wave in the ocean, or one of those examples where the wave is always the water, but the identity of the wave is mixed up with the fact that I'm only this much. I don't see that I'm the whole ocean. The water is the whole ocean. I don't see that yet. Why don't I see that? I don't know. We have to ask you, why don't you see it? So that's all. It's not owning anything. It is just the identification of that needs to, the wave's identification needs to shift from the form to the formless. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.